Graphic designers, what's happening? Have you ever had a client in the food industry and you're sitting there designing their menus or takeout order forms and you're just like hungry and you're like, damn, I really could use one of those right now? We've all had it happen to us. Well, this tutorial is going to do the same thing to you because in this tutorial, I'm going to be talking about donuts. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Steve Looney, and I am the owner of GraphicDesignerTips.com. This is episode number 4 of Graphic Design Layout Bootcamp, where in every episode, I take a fictitious brand that I developed in my previous series, Logo Design Bootcamp, and I give it some life. I put it on some type of a design where obviously you're going to be able to learn tips and tricks through Adobe programs on how to build it, and in the end understand how you can take a brand and keep the continuity of that brand through other pieces and other mediums. Alright, so if you recall from episode number 4 of Logo Design Bootcamp, I designed a logo called Dreamy Donuts, which is a very fun and bubbly logo, but Dreamy Donuts, the fictitious company, has been in business for 4 or 5 years. And now they're ready to step it up a little bit. So I cleaned and modernized the logo a little bit, cleaned it up, kept a lot of the same attributes, of course. And I superimposed the logo on certain things like, you know, a box. These are my box of donuts I had to buy. And then, you know, my other Munchkins box. And the real deal of what you're going to learn today is how to build this layout right here, which is going to be, you know, in a magazine or a newspaper. It's on like shiny magazine type of stock. It's thin, but it could be on a counter of a local business where there's coupons on it, so people will take them and then use them. So you're going to learn so much in this tutorial today about building a layout that you're going to be happy you stuck around to watch it. So let me critique this thing, and in all my design layouts, my layout design boot camps, I provide the files below, so you can click this link right here to download this actual file without the image of the donuts, because that's when I purchased. But you can have the images of the mock-ups and the boxes that I took with my camera. They'll be on the file. And like I said, I'm going to get into critiquing this real quick. I'm going to then build it, and then I'll be back at the end to hear your comments. So let's go. This Dreamy Donuts poster, insert, whatever you want to call it, you're going to learn a lot from, as in all the tutorials I do. But I have, like I said, updated this logo and made it a lot more cleaner. And you're going to learn stuff like starting up here. You're going to learn the Pathfinder, how to do a blur effect and do strokes up here to make this pop off. I'm going to show you how to use a brush stroke to make these sprinkles up here. I'm going to show you how to do gradients up here, how to layer things a specific way, how to make a little fade to break up this image from the logo and this little icon up here. I'm also going to show you how to create these little icons over here. And part of the icons are actual, you know, Dunkin' Donuts boxes that I changed the color on and just kind of superimpose real quickly the Dreamy Donuts logo on. And so I'm going to show you how to make these little graphics right here. And I'm going to show you how to do that in Photoshop, how to clip them out and, you know, color correct them real quick. Same thing with this coffee cup. And also going to show you how to make a text box and rag it around an actual image, so you're actually distorting the text box. Last thing I'm going to show you is the very bottom, is how to arrange everything nice and neatly, how to align certain things. That's also a big part of what I do. And how to get a QR code and do some kind of an image trace on it so you can eventually turn it white to put it on any colored background. Because most of the times we see these QR codes and they're black and, you know, they're just, you know, the same everywhere. So change it up a little bit and add some flavors. I'm also going to show you how to save this for print when it comes to the actual adding of the bleeds and then saving this as a PDF, because it's going to have bleed if most of these colors go to the edge, which, as you're seeing right now, they do. So you're going to have to add that bleed so when the printer cuts into it, there's no white around. Let's get into it right now and start building this thing. The first thing that you want to do is work on your images. So provided to you is a folder with images in it, 3 images that I took roughly on my camera with a wrinkly white background. Then we're going to take all that out. Lighting is good enough, you know, just for the purpose of the tutorial. So we're going to select all 3 of these, drag them into Photoshop. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to crop all these images, and then we're going to resize them. So let's crop by taking the marquee tool and then going to image crop. We're going to do that with all 3. see why I'm doing this first and a second. Last one. And image adjust, image crop. And now we are going to go into image size, and we're going to change the resolution to 300. And these are going to be very small images. So except for the coffee, which I am going to have a larger version of that coffee on the bottom right of this ad. So we're going to, let's say we make the width 5 and the height's about 7. Let's not make that 4. So it's telling us right here the image was 7 megs and it's now almost around 6 megs. We're going to hit OK, and it's now a 300 resolution for us to work with in print. And we are now going to do the same thing to the other two. And with these, it's going to be a little bit different because we're going to print these so small. So I'm going to say the width is going to be 3. 3 should be fine, and we're going to hit OK. And same thing with this last one. We're going to do 3. Change it to 300 resolution. Make sure that width is 3, and then hit OK. Now, jumping back into the first one, we're going to take the marquee again, and we're going to hit Command T or Edit Transform, Free Transform, excuse me. And we're now going to just rotate this a little bit till it's right side up. We're going to hit OK. You're going to see there's some stuff going on, that's stuff missing. And we're now going to come into the pen tool, and we're going to zoom in. And actually, before that, come into your layer, double click, and hit OK, because now it's an editable layer. And we're going to take this pen tool, and we're going to make a selection around this entire coffee cup. And then we're going to take all that Dunkin' Donuts stuff out of there in a second. Let me speed through this. All right, so we got this. Now we're going to go to make selection right here, and we're going to hit OK. We're now going to go to select inverse, and we're going to hit delete, because that's going to basically select the background at that point, and we're going to delete that. Now, first thing you want to do is come up to image adjustment levels, and you want to take the last part of the levels and bring it up, the light part. And this is all experimentation. We're probably going to come back in here later to adjust. You can even go into brightness contrast to make the brightness just a little bit better. And now hit OK. Now I'm going to recrop this because now I have a lot of extra space around. This is my preference. I'll trim the file size a little bit, and now hit Command D to deselect. We got to get this Dunkin' Donuts stuff out of here. So what you want to do is we can experiment with the lasso tool, and we can select a nice area out of here and see if Content Aware does the trick. If it doesn't, we use the stamp tool. All right, so you're going to go to Shift Delete and hit OK and see if anything happens. All right, cool. So I'm going to back up for a second. I made the selection. You can also come to Edit Fill, and you're going to see the fill. You can change that to Content Aware and hit OK. Cool. And hit Command D to deselect. Good enough for right now. Same thing with the lasso over here. We'll do Dunkin' Donuts, Content Aware, see what happens. The last thing I'm going to do is you're going to make sure you go to Image Mode. I should have done this first, and CMYK Color, just to make sure you have your images saved. Most digital printers, yes, nowadays they do convert, but you don't know how much loss you might have on your actual color profiles if you do that. So, like I said, Image Mode, CMYK, do that on all 3 images at the end. I'm now going to save this file as, I'm going to save it on my desktop for now. I'm going to say coffee cup.psd right on the desktop. Save. Now we're going to jump into our next image. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to do the same thing with the pen tool. We are going to clip this shape or mask this out. We're going to now make a selection and hit OK. Select inverse and then hit delete. Oh, excuse me. We have to double click on our layer first, make it a layer. Now hit delete. You can delete those pixels and Command D to deselect this. We're going to try the Content Aware in this. I don't know if we're going to have any success, but you're going to want to get most of this out of here. Actually, I doubt we're going to have any success with this. But let's see. We're going to hit Shift Delete and Content Aware, hit OK. Yep, all right, so that's no good. All we're going to do here is we're going to hit I on the keyboard for the eyedropper. We're going to click this color right here. So now our fill is a gray color, and we're going to go to Edit Fill, Foreground Color, and see what happens. If I hit Command D to deselect, you're going to see there's a hard edge here. You could always blur that out. Let's see what happens if we blur that. Do like a Gaussian blur, a little bit. Hit OK, and then hit Delete. All right, it worked a little bit, not bad. We're now going to adjust our levels. And there's no real order to this before. I think I adjusted the levels first. And we're going to hit OK. And you can even get this stuff on the side out here by doing the same thing with the lasso tool. I'm going to leave that for now. What I want to now do is I want to change this color right here to a more of a brown. So what I would do is, and there's many different ways in Photoshop to do this, I would go to image adjustments and go to replace color. And I would click, on this color right here, and you can mess around with the fuzziness to see how much of it is actually selecting, and start to mess around with these levels over here. All right. If I turn the preview off, that's what it was, and that's what it is now. I might make that a little bit duller and make it a little bit darker or lighter, depending on how I want this to look. And then you're going to hit OK. We're going to now save this as a PSD file, donut box. We're going to now hit OK. That is on our desktop. Let's jump into this final image, and we're going to zoom in. I'll go to image levels first because it's very dark. And actually, this was an interesting image because of the fact that the munchkins that I bought, it looked like they kind of just like bled through the box. We see all this crappy stuff going on. We're going to double click that layer, hit OK. And let's try this with the lasso tool and see if we can do some kind of a content aware around here. We're going to change that to content aware, hit OK. All right, not bad. Hit deselect. What we can do to refine this is we can come into the clone stamp tool, and let's make this a little larger and go to option click and then start to fill in these areas. Oh, let me back up. Fill in some of these areas. And you can mess around with this all day. You can turn your opacity down and then start to blend this in. Better. So we're roughing this right now, so just to make it, quick and easy. Let's do the lasso tool around here. Content aware, hit OK. Deselect, Command D, and let's try this final area, see if it works out. D, hit OK. Oh, all right, that's not good. I'm going to come into my lasso and hit Option on the keyboard to take a little of this off the top and see if that works. Hit OK. All right, here we go. Not bad, not bad. We're going to now go to File, Save As Munchkin Box, even though I think Munchkin is a trademark, Dunkin' Donuts. That's all right. Oops, let me do this background. I forgot to do this background. We're going to speed through this real quick with the pen tool, just like the other two. Okay, make the selection, hit OK. Now go to Select Inverse and Delete. And the final thing is we're going to go to Image Adjustments, Replace Color again. Click this. We're going to change that a little bit and make it just like the other one. And now hit OK. Since we saved this already, you're just going to go Command S to save. And now we're going to jump into Illustrator. Go to File, New. And we're going to name this document DD Poster. And we are going to have it as one artboard. We're going to change the size to 10.25 by 10. And we're going to, we can add the bleed later or we can add it now. So what we'll do is we'll take the bleed and we'll hit top and it'll make it consecutive for all these 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to hit OK. Now, let me just actually check something real quick. I just want to make sure my width My height was 10.25. All right, cool. So we'll change this easily. We're going to go to Document Setup, hit Edit Artboards. My height was 10.25, and my width was 10. And then we're going to hit OK to change that up. And I'm going to come into here. I'm going to take this entire piece. I'm going to just paste it next to my artboard so I have a reference. I do this in all the tutorials just to make it easier, because this thing took me a few hours to put together. So, you know, I don't want this tutorial being a few hours. Let's come back into Photoshop, minimize this. Okay. So let's see. We're going to come into View. We're going to take our guides and we're going to hide them. Or go to Command semicolon. You see that right there. And I'm going to pull my logo out here so I can also sample colors. I also have provided swatches. I have provided 4 different swatches. A solid brown, a solid goldish orange, and then a gradient of each of them to use throughout the piece. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to create a rectangle. And we're going to now put this rectangle up here. Make it about this height. Let me put this really alongside it so I can reference this. And we're going to come into the Eyedropper tool and we're going to select our gradient, either the one that's provided up here in the squares or in the swatches. And I'm going to now zoom in and I'm going to go to Option Click. Let's make this a little higher. Option Click, shift it down. And I'm going to, with the direct selection, click on this line and I'm going to now, while holding Shift, because if you don't, this is going to happen, hold Shift. I'm going to make this much thinner. Now I'm going to click this and I'm going to come into the Reflect tool and I'm going to click, hold Shift and drag to the right, because it's kind of a cool effect when you have a light to a dark and then the next gradient is a dark to a light of the same exact values. So that's what I did in here. I'm going to zoom in and fix what's happening here with the direct selection. Actually, I'm going to select both of these and click and pull it to the edge. All right. In my last tutorial, and I'm going to go back into the original, this was the original Dreamy Donuts logo, and I'm going to copy these sprinkles right here. And in your file, you're going to have this as a brush already. You're going to see the sprinkles are right there. What you want to do is you want to take a line segment, and you want to just make a line segment, hold Shift while you're doing it, and we're going to click the sprinkles right here, and it's going to create these sprinkles. What you're now going to do is go to Object, Expand Appearance, and we're going to fill this with white. So now if we lay these sprinkles over here, it's going to be all white sprinkles. Now, what I like to do now is I'd like to put this to the top and go to Option, Command, Option, click, shift it down while holding, like I said, Shift, and then Option, click, Shift again 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to click, I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to hold Shift on the last one. I'm going to go to Command G. We're going to group that entire selection. The next thing we're going to do is come into our gradient tool, and we're going to just pull a white, come into our swatches and pull white into one side, and then pull white into the other side. I can't do that there. So it's white to white. Now you're going to take one of these whites, and we're going to take the opacity down to 0. And you're now going to take your gradient tool, click from the bottom, hold Shift, and go all the way to the top. We're going to see what happened here. We had basically a gradient from white to 0% white happening right here. The next thing I did was I took this entire selection, I took my transparency, and I believe I brought it down to 40%. Looks pretty legit. Yes, it does. The next thing we're going to do is take our Dreamy Donuts logo, and we're just going to plop it right here. And if you see, it went behind this. We're going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Now, if you notice, I don't use layers for anything, except if I really am like halfway through a project and the background, you know, keeps getting in my way, then I'll throw it on a layer and lock it underneath. And the reason I do that is layers are great, but layers, I believe, slow you down. If you can learn how to unlock and lock elements, meaning that if I don't want to select this area right here, I would take this entire area and I would go to Command 2 or Object, Lock, Selection. And if you do that, then guess what? I can't mess around with this background. You can also unlock by going to Command Option 2 or object, lock selection, or lock unlock all on page. And if you do that and you're not looking at your keyboard and you're not coming up here and clicking, you're going to save so much time and be able to, I talk about this in all my tutorials, and I always talk about locking, unlocking selections. It's very important. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do this thing, September Deals. And this is a little bit of experimentation, playing around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the type tool, type in the word September, hit escape, and go to teaspoon regular, which is the font that I used for this. And I'm going to just pull this in here. I'm now going to go to option, click, shift it down, so I don't have to create a whole new text box. Select this and go to DEALS. I'm going to type that out, hit escape. Now I'm kind of making my own little logo here, so I'm going to hold shift while I scale this up, and let's see. I want the S to fit in after the D and the S at the end of deals to go to the end of the R. But if you notice what's happening here, I got this L that's kind of screwing everything up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Shift Command O on the keyboard to create outlines. I'm going to zoom in, move this out of the way. I'm going to select these points with the direct selection, or A on the keyboard. I'm going to pull these down, and now I have a spot to fill in the word September. Okay, you can still read that as deals. It's just you're changing it up. You're making your own little logo to make this piece work. Now what I did was I took September and I turned it to the brown that I provided. Oh, I gotta put that swatch in there actually. September to just a solid brown. And I took the word deals, and since it's already outlined because I had to mess around with this L, I took a gradient of, we'll use this gradient right here. Actually, you know what? No. I'm going to make a new gradient of this gold color. I'm going to pull it into here to the gradients. Hello. All right. There's my golds in there. And I'm going to take the brown and put it on the other side. Make sure these are both at 100%. And I'm going to take the gradient. I'm just going to make the brown near the bottom. All right, maybe going like halfway up. That looks cool. And I'm going to now go to Command C, Command B. I do this all the time. I personally don't like using the appearance palette because if I want to shift things individually. And I'm going to make, basically what I just did was I copied deals and I threw a copy of it behind. And I'll show you this. You see what's happening? If I fill this all like red, let's see, the fill. If I fill that all red, you see how it's right behind it? So I'm going to back up to where I had two of them. And I'm going to now take this and put a white stroke of, let's say, 2 or 3 pixels. And you don't see it yet, but when we put a shadow on it by going to Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow, you're going to see this thing pop out. You're going to see that white stroke. So now we're going to hit OK, put a simple stroke on here, and we're going to now select all this. We're going to go to Command G. We're going to group that selection. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come into our ellipse tool, and we're going to make an ellipse that goes around this whole word September Deals. And we're now going to go to Option, click, and you see as you move this, you can still see the blue around. That's this basically saying it's on layer 1. Layer 1 elements are going to be outlined in blue. So basically it's showing me where it's going to cut out. And what I mean by that is, say I fill this with red. If I cut this out from the front, I'm going to have this shape left over. So I'm now going to select both of these by clicking one, then hitting shift, and then clicking the other, and doing a Pathfinder of the minus front. Now I got this shape right here, and I'm going to now go to Option, click, going to flip it over here, come into our Reflect tool, hold shift, click, move to the right, and now hold shift, click, move to the top. So I basically flip this entire thing over, so now I have this kind of a thing going on. What I would like to do is I would like to pull it in so it kind of extends. It doesn't meet like this, the points. I want the points to kind of like, go within each other. Now you can kind of, scale this to how you want it to be. What I would do next is I would actually, to see how this is really going to look, I'm going to pull this all over here. I'm going to make a rectangle of black. Or actually, excuse me, I can use this. This is fine. Go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, so I can see what's happening on top of this color. Because I'm going to put now a white stroke behind this, and I want to see what's going to happen. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to click here, and hold shift while you're doing it, so you select them both at the same time. We're going to now go to Command C, copy, and Command B, paste in back. We're going to, without clicking off, we're going to hit the white, so we fill it with white. We're now going to hit the arrows on the keyboard to the left, 1, 2, 3, and down a little bit. All right, maybe a little bit more. All right, let's see, maybe we'll go up with that. All right, I like actually, it looks better if you have a lot more white showing. So now we got this going on. You can now come into your ellipse tool and just make an ellipse. Just, eye it up. And we're going to fill that ellipse with white, which is standard on there. And we're going to come into Object, Blur, Gaussian Blur, hit Preview. And we're going to make, let's see, a radius of about 30. Hit OK. And we're now going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Now, obviously, you don't see that anymore because it's behind this big shape. So now we're going to take this shape, go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and we're going to see what we created here. We can now click this element, the white that we just blurred, and start to mess around with this to where we want it to be. Okay? I'm going to make it a little bit larger. Looks pretty cool. We can now even take these two elements. I'm going to pull them over here so you see them, and I'm going to back up Command Z, and now click Command G to group them. And let's go into Stylize Drop Shadow, see if that does anything for us. I did a drop shadow. We're going to hit OK. Same thing with here. We're going to go to 1, 2, move them off so you see I selected only those. Command G, and we're going to go to Effect, Apply Drop Shadow. So now I did a drop shadow on both of these, and I'm going to click this element. I'm going to delete. I'm going to select this entire element and go to Command G, and I'm going to move it in our piece now. We're now going to scale this to where we want it to be, and we're going to take the corner and we're going to rotate this. Pretty cool, right? All right, next thing you're going to do is you're going to go online and either purchase a really nice image of donuts, take one with your camera, or find one through a search engine just to use for the purpose of this tutorial. I purchased one from Big Stock, and that's what it looks like here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into Photoshop, very important. We're going to go to Image, Image Size, and you're going to notice it's saying at 300 resolution, this image is best at 18 inches wide. But you already know that this piece is only 10 inches wide, so we don't need it to be that high quality for this piece. So we're going to take the 18 and type in 10, and everything will change accordingly. And you're going to notice the piece went from 60 megs, the image went from 60 megs to 17. That's very important because you want your file size to be smaller. So now you're going to hit OK. We're going to save this as donut background. We're not going to mess with this, so we'll just save it as a JPEG if you want. Hit OK. We're going to jump back into Illustrator, and we're going to go to File, Place. On the desktop, find Donut Background JPEG and hit Place. And you're going to notice, wow, interesting, it's only 10 inches wide, just like my document. If you would have pulled that other one in, it would have been like this wide. It would have came in like this, and you really didn't need all that extra. It's still 300 resolution, good enough for print. We're now going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. We're going to pull this right up to that line. And if you notice, I kind of don't like what's happening. The word donuts is going right into here. This is kind of floating right into here. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. Nudge it over a little bit. What I did here was I actually created like a gradient that will separate it. So basically all you have to do is come to the rectangle tool, make a rectangle. To make a rectangle right here. And well, obviously I already did that. So say you didn't have it like this. What you need to do is you need to make a gradient with white and white and take one of the gradient areas and change the opacity to 0, and then mess around with your gradient accordingly using your gradient tool. And now that I got my gradient to where I want it to be, I'm going to click the gradient, hold shift and click the image, and I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. So now it just plopped right behind everything. If I take out this gradient, move this up, refine that a little bit. If I take out this gradient, watch what happens. We're back to where we were. And everything's kind of running into each other. If we take that gradient and make it a little bit more, powerful, we can open this up. We can mess around with the levels in here. So we can do a lot of things with this. It's all experimentation. The next thing we're going to do is let's do the bottom. All right, we're going to come into here and we're going to create another rectangle that spans across. Now this blue I took from the original Dreamy Donuts logo. So I'm just going to sample this blue. It is a blue gradient. And I'm going to now go do the same thing. Option click, shift. I'm going to make a line above it. What do you think I'm going to do next? Probably going to flip that around. So I have the gradient going from one side just like on the other one. All right. Actually, my gradient's going up and down in this case, so don't worry about that for now. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to take these sprinkles and I'm going to go to Option click. I'm going to shift them down. I'm going to take my reflect tool and flip them upside down. So it kind of contains it in the piece. And now you can't see it anymore because it's behind it. So you're going to go to Option, Arrange, Bring to Front. Voila, there they are, surprisingly. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to click Location 1. We're going to, type in Location 1. And we're going to hit Escape. And you're just going to make a little text box, and you're going to type in, like a dummy address. And we're going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. And you're going to now, let's see, I'm going to zoom into here. I'm going to now take a line segment tool. I'm going to click, hold shift while you do it. And you're going to put a white stroke on this of at least 1 point. Cool, right? All right. I don't like what's happening up here because I'm losing the white. It's getting lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blue. I'm going to come into the gradient. I'm going to make the blue darker on the top by messing around with my gradient. All right, cool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select all this, and we're going to go to Command 2 and lock. And we're now just going to go to Option click. We're going to Shift 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I just eyed that up, and basically you're going to see there's no more room for my QR code. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm just going to scale this. I'm going to take this whole selection. I'm going to scale this down while holding shift, because after a while you can't get everything perfectly spaced. As long as you're eyeing this up and you've been doing this for a while, everything looks perfectly spaced. It's not going to ruin the piece or anything. I'm going to put my dummy QR code in here because we're going to mess around with that later. Actually, I need to still print this to see if a QR code will scan in white. So we're going to now come into location and option, click shift, and we're going to type in opening our 8th location soon. And hit escape. And we're going to just make it either a black or a really dark blue. We're going to scale that up a little bit. Next thing I did was I'm going to go to option, click shift, and type in the web address. And I'm going to hit escape, but I'm going to change that to Arial because I don't like the font to be everywhere, that font. And we're just going to make these little lines that kind of separate over here and fill it with a black stroke. Go to option, click shift, and you can refine this stuff all later. That's why you're learning I'm teaching you the tools here. You're going to refine this stuff later. I'm actually going to change this to bold italics. All right, fill in that space a little bit and make it stand out, of course. The next thing you want to do is you want to go online to maybe qrstuff.com or just any website that you're going to be able to make a QR code for free. And you can also do this in InDesign, where you can actually link through the program to make a QR code. You make it right in the program. But I don't really design much with InDesign, even though you can definitely design this piece in there. You're going to now make your QR code, and you're going to download QR code, and we're going to hit OK. Now, I have done this before where you can scan. You can't do it off the screen. The screen's going to be too confusing to the QR reader. So I'm going to come into my QR code that I just downloaded, and I'm just going to pull it right into Illustrator. And here's a pretty cool thing. Now, right now, it's just an image. It's a flat image. It's a JPEG or PNG file, excuse me. You're going to select this entire thing, go to Image Trace, just like a live trace, and then hit Expand. We're now going to, with the direct selection, hit A on our keyboard. All right, and we're going to, what I'm going to do, just to be safe, pull this into a new document and go to, and I'll show you why I did this in a second. We're going to put a color behind here. We're going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, because now we're going to have to take out all these white areas so it's transparent. You're going to have to do that. Let's see. There we go. Okay, cool. Get to where I need it to be. I'm doing this with the direct selection, by the way. Now, the reason I put this in a new document is we're going to select one of these and go to Select Same Fill Color. Now, if I had anything else that was filled in black, like the type on the bottom of the page, it would have selected that too, and I didn't want that. So I'm going to change this now to white, so you can see it's knocking off. I'm going to take this entire thing. It is grouped already, but just always double check. And I'm going to get out of this document, come back in to our poster. I'm going to go to Command. The heck did I do? Oh man, I didn't even back up. Let me throw this in here. I got to turn this to white. I thought I did. I got backed up. Object, select same fill color and change it all to white. Now hit Command C and I'm going to paste that. There we go. Delete this. Going crazy here. Delete this. Take this and we're going to scale this down. I'll plop it right in there. Now, I'm going to check later when I print all this that this actually shows up for scanning. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make these little coupons, and we're going to do that by coming into the rounded rectangle tool. And I'm going to click, and you're going to make that corner radius 0.125, an eighth of an inch. And I'm going to just kind of hover over what I did here. Hold shift while you do this, because then you're going to get an abnormal coupon. Actually, excuse me, this isn't a perfect square, so don't hold shift. Let's see. We're going to make this shape right here. I'm going to just pull this over. I'm going to make one, and then I'm going to copy it 4 times. I'm now going to come into my stroke, and you're going to hit dash line. And let's make sure the fill on this is white. And we're going to make, obviously, the stroke black. And we're going to make sure the dash line is, it says about 5.7, something like that. That's what I used in my other one. And I'm going to now copy this over. We're going to do something cool here. I'm going to make a little icon. And we're going to now copy that here. I'm going to take a rectangle or any shape that has a flat end. And we're going to click like that right over it. And we're going to now select both of these. And using the Pathfinder, we're going to minus the front. We're going to now take this stroke off. And we're going to take the fill and make it, let's say one of those gradients, and I'm now going to pull this over here. It's going to be the bottom of my coupon, and I'm going to take the fill of this white and change it to none. I'm going to send this, arrange, send to back. All right, if I send it to the back, it's actually, I have to send this to the back. So object, arrange, send to back. So this is a case where you might want to put this on another layer and lock it. But we're now going to go to Option, click, and we're going to shift that up, and we're going to do one right below it. Copy it, Option, click, shift below it. We're going to select both, minus the front, and now we got this line just like we did before. You can even flip that around if you want using the Reflect tool, so you have the gradient going the other way. And now we're going to come up to our Dreamy Donuts logo, go to Option, click, shift, and we're going to just scale this down. Like so. Let's see. I'll make it a little bigger. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to, I'm going to copy all this, and we're just going to make a text box. You're going to type in all that information, and just make sure when you go to paragraph, it's justified. It looks nice and neat like that. We're now going to come into our pen tool and type in, the first one we're going to type in is free. We're going to hit escape and type in teaspoon, and I'm going to change it to this blue. So, or just, 100% cyan pretty much is what it is. Just going to scale that up just a little bit. And I'm going to now take this, and I'm going to, since I have one, I'm going to go Option, click, shift it down to, click, now hold all these, Option, click, shift it over. cool. So now we have these 4 coupons, and we're going to now be able to change. You know, up here I can write $2 off, just like on my original. Let's see, free coffee. Hit escape. I'm going to make this a little bit, scale it down a little bit. This one's going to say $5 off. Okay, cool, and hit escape. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start placing those images that we did in the beginning of this entire tutorial in here. We're going to go to File, Place. Remember, I saved them on my desktop. You can hopefully you save them in a folder somewhere. And we're going to go to Coffee Cup PSD. Let's see, I can only do one at a time. Hit Place. I got the coffee cup. We're now going to go to File, Place, and we're going to go to Munchkin Box. And last thing we're going to place is should be Donut Box. Cool. So we got 1, 2, 3. Now, if you notice what's happening here, you see the difference in the color. Not very happy with that right now. We got the orange, but we got this kind of as a red right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Photoshop, and I'm going to find my box. I said Munchkin Box. I'm going to go to Image Adjust, Replace Color again. Click here, and I'm going to change the hue. Just like so. Hit OK, and hit Command S, and I'm going to flip back into Illustrator, and it's going to say, some files are missing or modified in the links panel. Would you like to update them now? Absolutely. Hit yes. You're going to notice this color changes. Cool. That's what I wanted it to be. And I'm going to move this down here, and we're going to just superimpose the logo on here. Very simple. Nothing crazy. I'm going to take the logo, go to Option, click, shift it over. I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, bring to the front because now it got hidden behind it. Make it a little bit larger. I'm now going to, actually, you know what? Let's see. I'm going to Option, click, shift it over here. Do this a little bit, scale it down. Okay, good enough. And I even added the website on mine. You can, do that very simply with a text box. And last thing I'm going to do is on top of this coffee cup, I'm going to add this here. Let's see, can we mess around here? You can turn it into multiply, and it'll show like the texture of the cup behind it a little bit. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually go back into Photoshop because you see what's happening. I made this too light. So let's jump back into Photoshop with this coffee cup. And we're going to come into Image, Adjust Levels. And we're going to take the top level, the dark level, and we're going to bring it down a little bit. See what happens? Take the mid levels down. Okay, that's not really helping us out with the side. So what you're going to have to do is hit OK. And come into the Burn tool, which is right here. The hand, like that. And we're just going to burn the outside of this a little bit. And see if anything does happen. Let's see, we're going to burn the edges. If you burn this over here, you're going to notice that turns dark. So we're going to keep doing that, and we're going to hit Command S, come back into Illustrator, and hit yes. All right, helps out a little bit. We're now going to select both of these and go to Command G. We're grouping them. And I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and you're going to notice it's going to get hidden behind the donuts again. You're going to take your donut image, again, Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And now we're going to take this, we're going to scale this down a little bit. What you can even do on this cup is you can come into Photoshop, and we can now double click this layer, put a shadow on it if we want. Let's make that a little bit less. Hit OK, hit Command S, come back into Illustrator and hit yes. Okay. I don't like that shadow, so I'm going to jump back into Photoshop, mess around with it. Let's see, we'll come into the shadow again. It's too big. Take the opacity a little lighter. Hit OK. Come back in here. Hit, there we go. Good enough. Okay. The next thing I did was I just took this box and I grouped it. Select these two in group. Move the box in here. Scale it down just a little bit. Get it to where you want it to be. You can even rotate it to fit in there. That's what I did before. Same thing with this option, or excuse me, let's just bring it here, scale it down to fit in this area. Then I option click shift, copied it, and made another one. Bring the terms down a bit. And let's see, we're going to click this here. You get what's going on here. Go to Object, Arrange, bring that to the front. And now you can take this coffee cup and you can scale it down. Object arrange, bring to front. Over here we had, I think, two coffee cups, 1, 2, and then a box of donuts, a different combination over here. Don't let that hang outside of the coupon. Now the final thing we're going to do is we're going to do actually two little things. We're going to just make a rectangle, and right over here, just kind of style this up and have some fun in here. We're going to hit A on the keyboard, take this point, click right here. We're going to nudge it over so we get a nice angle that we want. I can even take the top point now, pull that back if I want. You're going to fill that with a gradient. Right now I'm just going to put a solid in here because you're going to play around with that and make your own gradient. I'm now going to go to Option, click. I'm going to shift that down. I'm going to flip it around using the Reflect tool. Make sure it's at the edge. Actually, no, bring it over here so it goes over the coffee cup. And now click this line segment and hold Shift so this doesn't happen. And you'll pull it right to the edge. And you're now going to, you're going to make a thing of type on each. One that says take advantage, make sure that's to the front. And same thing, 4 new coffee flavors. Object arrange, bring to front. And with a text box, very simple to do. You can just make this new flavor coffee, right here, put them in here. Actually, you know what? Let me back up. What I did here was I made a text box. I'd rather just do this then. Just type all this stuff in. All right, what I did here was to drag it around here. I hit A on the keyboard, selected this point right here, and I pulled the point. So it actually distorts the text box, which is pretty cool. Cool little effect. I do that on a lot of things. And the final thing we're going to do is we're going to set this up for print, because now we're sending this to a printer. You want to make sure you have the adequate bleeds on here. The very last thing you want to do is go to Command semicolon again to turn back your guides that you turned off right in the beginning of this video. And you're going to want to, with the direct selection or A on your keyboard, start to click points and move them to the edge. So if we zoom in here, you're going to click this line segment. You're going to, actually, we're going to just shift this over. Let's see. We're going to just shift this picture over. Same thing with the fade. We're going to move that fade over. Okay. I'm actually going to have to scale this image just a little bit because it doesn't meet the left edge either. Right, there we go. Still looks good. We're going to take this ribbon, and if you noticed, I screwed this up here because now flavors is right at the edge. So I'm going to just either shift this over or scale this down just a little bit. It's okay not to have the perfect type and have it not be the perfect type. Same type as the one up here. It's going to be okay. Same thing with the blues down here. And the reason I'm afraid to go like this is because I'm going to start selecting these little sprinkles. So what you could do is you could take the sprinkles and go to Command 2 to lock them. And now I can just select this whole line segment. And even with the arrow on the keyboard, just nudge it over. Pull this down. Okay, we can nudge that over. And we can come up here. Command 2 to lock that background image so we don't mess around with it. Select the sprinkles again up here. Command 2 lock, and then take this whole piece, actually this whole piece right here, all these points, and now go to the left. Just adding this bleed so when the printer cuts it, there's no white around it. And the final thing we're going to do is we're going to save this by going to Command, File. I like to save as all the time. Save it as a PDF. You're going to save it to the desktop. Name it whatever you want to name it. Hit Save. What I like to do is I like to always do high quality print. I like to uncheck Preserve Illustrator Edited Capabilities because I'm going to get the best PDF at the lowest size. And come into Marks and Bleeds, click Trim Marks, and then take this bleed and just hit up, once, get an 1/8 of an inch bleed, save the PDF. Now I'm going to come back to my desktop. Once done, going to flip this down, and I'm going to get a mess going on here now. Where's my PDF? We're going to open up this PDF, and voila. There is our Dreamy Donut September specials deals, and this is definitely pretty cool. Came out really good. I'm happy with it. So that's it. All right, so thanks for sticking with us to the end of this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, write it in the comments below. Let me know what you learned and what your thoughts are on this video. Definitely like the video and share it out in your social networks. Much appreciated. And hit the subscribe button so you'll be able to get these videos as soon as possible as they get uploaded onto the internet. I'll be back here next week for another graphic design layout bootcamp. But in the meantime, while you're designing these, I want you to send them to my email what you come up with. A different rendition, a different size, or some type of different media you're designing for. Send them to my email or tag them to our Facebook page, and I will gladly repost them for everybody else to see what other ways things can be done. So I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night. Peace.